everyone, welcome back to Warhammer 40k, a universe so dark that anime can exist in it. Last time we talked about the Emperor's finest warriors, the Adeptus Custodes, one of the finest melee armies in 40k. But now we go in the complete opposite direction of melee combat, as we are focused on the army that loves the shooting phase and plasma-based weapons, and is the youngest faction in Warhammer 40k lore, the Tau Empire. Let's get into it.
I've been staring at this all day, I still don't get it.
The Tau Empire were first discovered by Imperial explorers in the 35th millennium, but they weren't the hyper-advanced species we see in 40k, but mainly a tribal race divided up into 4 clans. The Imperium planned on just wiping the species out, but thankfully for the Tau, a galactic phenomenon called a warp storm blocked all travel to the Tau's home system, leaving the Imperium to toss up their hands and forget about it. However, for the Tau, this would be the start of their growth, from tribes to an empire. Legend says that a new clan calling themselves the Ethereals appeared out of nowhere during a great battle and convinced all sides in the conflict to lay down their arms and join as a collective. Speaking of a belief called the Greater Good, a belief that all sentient races in the galaxy are equal and should be united. With this belief, and with the leadership of the Ethereals, the Tau would spend the next 6,000 years developing into a technologically advanced race, going from sticks and stones to plasma guns and anti-gravity tanks in the span of that time. The Tau would then eventually spread out amongst the stars, finding the galaxy to be a hostile place with strange races, both friendly and hostile. Their colonization project also a way to spread the word of the greater good to any race willing to hear. However, in recent times, the Tau's cloak of unity appears to be slipping away. The Tau live in a caste system with no sign of growth for individuals. The Ethereals rule over the other castes with an iron grip, and those species who join the greater good find themselves used for cannon fodder or near slave labor conditions. One of the Tau's own generals, the legendary Commander Farsight, and his troops were also victims of the Ethereals' cruelty and rebelled against the Tau Empire, making their own set of territories called the Farsight Enclaves. The Tau now find themselves in a galaxy sick with war, despair, and utter cruelty. Their own race split between the unifying message of the greater good or the rebellion of Farsight. But the Tau still do not give up hope, for they wish to unite the galaxy as one and see peace be brought to this grim, dark universe, whether through the voice of reason or by ending the last war with a plasma bolt. The Tau Empire stands against the hopelessness of the galaxy, no matter the cost. Let's get into the army. The Tau Empire is known for 3 things: giant mech suits, lots of shooting, and being really bad at melee combat. So your army is going to focus heavily on shooting, and the Tau's army ability only makes your shooting better. For the greater good allows units to spot for each other. Basically, spotting is a targeting assist. If you have 2 units looking at one enemy unit, one of your units can spot for the other, and the unit being assisted gets a +1 to hit to the enemy unit, and both units get to ignore cover against the unit they're targeting. However, if the assisting unit shoots at a different target, they get a -1 to hit. Basically, have your army work together as best they can. Of course, we need to talk about something else before we get into the units: drones.
I solve practical problems.
Drones for the longest time were extra bodies, abilities, and guns for the Tau units, able to be taken as additional options for different squads and tanks. Now, drones are just tokens that die when the unit or model they are with bites it. The reason they designed it this way is because previous editions of 40k made drones incredibly annoying to deal with on the board, but now it's more annoying for Tau players to keep track of drone models in their army. Now let's just get into the Tau units as a whole.
Your math is no match for my gun, you idiot!
Tau infantry are basically harder-hitting Imperial Guard with better armor. Your infantry focuses on either rapid movement to spot and scout out for your heavier-hitting units, or lots and lots of gun lines. You should be a highly mobile force, moving and shooting as much as possible, and overwhelming your opponent with tons of firepower and firing lanes. Though again, you have to keep one thing in mind. Your infantry sucks at melee. Your infantry lacks any meaningful close combat weapons, and they only hit on 5s or 6s, and will be outdone by most other armies in melee. If a Tau unit gets dragged into melee, and they aren't one of your heavier units, just consider them lost and pull your units back so they don't get dragged in as well. But there is a way for your infantry to be protected.
Guys, come on, you'll be fine. I've got total faith in you. You're some of the best soldiers I ever knew.
What the fuck is that past tense bullshit?
Tau make use of the varied races all throughout their empire, but the only relevant groups are the Kroot and Vespid auxiliary forces. These guys are literal cannon fodder. Their toughness and armor are pitiful, and their weapons don't do much. But their role isn't to hurt things. It's to be extra bodies and to block melee units from getting to your far superior ranged infantry. With recent point drops, the Tau auxiliaries are some of the cheapest units to take in 40k, and using them to screen for your ranged infantry is usually a decent idea. But don't get it twisted. These guys are going to die, and are expected to die.
To the fighting robots! Mega!
Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the Tau Empire. Your battle suits. These guys are the Tau's version of Space Marine Terminators, and will be the units you're spending a lot of points on. The battle suits come in a few variants, such as the Crisis suits, Broadsides, Riptides, and Ghost Keels. Crisis suits are meant to be the fast and hard-hitting elite unit that you can customize to fit any situation. Broadsides fill the role of the anti-tank unit, their missiles and railguns able to tear through the toughest of enemy armor. Riptides and Ghost Keels are built to hunt down specific units both on the front and back line. These guys are the hardest hitting units in your army, but the melee weakness also affects them, because if they get dragged into melee, they will quickly be made into mulch. However, these guys are tough, and with some proper upgrades, they can survive melee combat and escape to fight another day. Just be aware of positioning with these guys, and you should be okay.
Arthur, get out of the tank.
You're not my dad.
Get out of the fucking tank. I am your dad.
You're not my dad.
I am your dad. Get out of the fucking
I'm in a tank and you're not.
Tau vehicles are all anti-gravity vehicles, not caring about terrain at all. However, this makes them weaker than other armies' vehicles, but that's perfectly okay. Tau tanks hit extremely hard with plasma fire. They have the Devilfish carrying troops into battle, the Skyray gunships being deadly artillery, and the piece de resistance of the Tau, and the things tons of armored armies fear from the Tau, the Hammerhead gunship. This heavy-hitting tank is the tank hunter of 40k. It wants to hunt any monster or vehicle on the table, and not only does it get bonuses to hit them, but it's extremely hard to miss for it, because it can re-roll misses. Team your tanks up with units like stealth suits or pathfinders to spot for them, and your opponent will see their armor units go up in smoke in no time. Remember though, your tanks aren't as tough as other armies, making them glass cannons in comparison, and your opponent's tanks can easily take out yours if they fall out of position. Keep your tanks covered and protected, and they will happily take out anything that you want gone.
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Due to events in the lore of Warhammer, the Tau have technically two great heroes, Commander Farsight and Commander Shadowsun. They each focus on different ways of Tau warfare called Montka and Kaon. Montka is the way of the quick strike and ending the fight as fast as possible by taking out key leaders and units within an army, while Kaon is the idea of the patient hunter, luring in their prey into designated kill zones and focusing on keeping your opponent off balance. Both commanders embodied their ideas masterfully, as Farsight is the only good melee unit in the Tau army, and taking him with crisis suits makes this guy extremely hard to put down while he's tearing someone's throat out. Shadow Sun focuses on hit-and-run tactics, melting enemy units with their fellow stealth suits, then running back behind well-disciplined gun lines to kill any chance at a counterattack. Both commanders fill a playstyle that will fit into your preferred way of playing, but word of warning, taking Farsight means you lose access to the Ethereal Leader unit, which isn't too much of a loss, but do be aware of that. And that's the Tau Empire, an army heavily focused on ranged warfare and keeping every army they meet at an extreme distance. Yes, your units fall apart in melee, and some other armies have way tougher tanks than you do, but you have enough heavy-hitting plasma weapons and are fast enough to make these weaknesses a non-issue. Plus, you can never go wrong with the badass crisis suits. Thanks for watching, and when we come back... Okay, we need to talk about this. I have been using the Codex release schedule, and they haven't released a schedule for Wave 2 yet. So here's what we are going to do. If you go to my Patreon, which is linked in the description below, I will have a poll for which army we will be talking about next. If you want to have a say in the next army, go ahead and subscribe. It's only $5 a month, and you get to see videos a few days earlier than here on YouTube. Otherwise, we'll see what happens. See you next time.